I think everything's so funny. It's very easy for me to find humor in the struggle because I'm never not struggling.
All right. So my next guest, she had me at my thighs gobbled up my shorts. And so who can say those words and not relate to them, you know? So I am super excited to have, she goes by I'm Mrs Spacecadet on IG and on TikTok, Erin Azar. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm super excited to have you. You're kind of like the quintessential like mom of three who all of a sudden decided I had a couple of kids and I'm going to start to run. That's
Mhm.
kind of amazing. Do you mind telling us just a little bit about, how you started to run and then how you had all these followers and gobbled shorts and all that good stuff?
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on. My name's Erin Azar. I'm in Pennsylvania. I have 3 little kids. I post relatable running content on TikTok and Instagram, sometimes YouTube if I can get my act together over there. But I actually started running after I had my 3rd baby. It was my first C-section, and I was just, in that postpartum funk of you're exhausted, you're surrounded by people, but you feel isolated. You're just like, no, I wasn't feeling healthy, and that was
Yeah.
frustrating me because I'm like, I feel like I'm improving my nutrition, like I'm getting what my body needs. But I just like I don't know, couldn't get out of that funk. And I always hated running, like despised it. Ever since the like gym class mile in any sports, it was punishment. So I'm like, why am I even going to try this? I know I'm going to hate it.
Right.
But I think I was just like that low that I'm like, I don't know, maybe it was just desperation.
Bad enough you're
Um,
willing to turn to running. I
yeah,
love
I
it.
think that's what it was because where we live, it's very rural. I mean, you're gonna drive minimum 30 minutes to go to a gym
Right.
and to get any kind of exercise class, or even a run group. I mean, that's at least 30 minutes.
Yep.
So yeah, it was very isolating, but I'm like, I think I have to do this just to feel better. But I tried running a mile, and I did that every day through that first month just to like stick with something. But even in the first mile, I felt like I came back slightly more at ease, I guess. And I just felt like a hunch that I think I need to keep doing this because I
Yeah.
didn't know what else to do.
Right.
But yeah, I just decided I'm not going to be serious about it because that makes me stressed.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm just going to post, these running videos and then maybe some other moms that are, trying to learn how to run will find each other and we can just be like internet friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, no, nothing big, just I might find a friend. But one of the first run videos I posted on TikTok just like went viral instantly. And I think I grew to maybe like 100,000 followers on there within,
Wow.
I don't know, just a few months or something,
Oh my
which for
gosh.
me, I was like 35, mom of 3. I'm like, what most
Well,
people think of TikTok is like, this is a kids app and there's like dancing on here. But when you actually watch it and the algorithm is like, oh, this is the kind of person you are, like you'll never see any kid stuff or dancing or
right.
anything. So
Exactly.
it's very specific. The algorithm knows you better than you know yourself. And I reached target audience. Let's just say
Yes, you
that.
did. You definitely resonated. And your kids were how old when you started running?
Well, the one was, like a newborn. The middle one was 2, and then the older one was 4 or something like
So
that.
this is for sanity at this point
Yeah,
too, right? Yeah.
literally to stay sane. That is still what it is. I mean, I find a little more joy in it now just because I think everything's so funny. It's very easy for me to find humor in the struggle because I'm never not struggling. Um, Even on like a quote unquote good run, that good feeling will last a little bit. It's really the feelings I get after I'm done, like the whole rest of the day.
Right.
That's where my benefits come in. During the run, I hate it usually. but it's easy for me to laugh at that.
So how like when do you run? How do you get yourself out the door? Logistics, kind of all that with 3 kids. I quit it too. So I
Uh-huh.
don't know. I didn't go for the zone defense. I stuck with man to man. So
Right. Yeah, we are outnumbered and it's insane. So I think that that's one of the hardest parts is there's no schedule for me. And I wish there was. I wish I could be that mom that wakes up at 5 and gets the run in, eats, packs all the kids lunch, does yoga and meditates and, all that. I bet I would be a lot calmer and I don't really know. But when I wake up that early, I'm dead by 1.
yeah,
It doesn't matter how long I do it or what I eat or what like, I'm just it's not working for my body. I
yeah.
can't
Well,
do it.
as somebody that does get up that early, I go to bed before my kids. So
Yeah, see, that's the other thing, and then, my kids go to bed, and I'm up, like, trying to cram in more work
yep,
because I know, like, we're getting up and doing it all over again, so, yeah, I can't get to bed early, so that's the problem, um, but yeah, so for me, it's really day to day.
yeah.
And the night before, my husband and I are like, "All right, what do you have? Okay, I have this, I have this at 10, this, and the kids have to go here.
It's
What do you
logistics.
have?" Where it's like
Yep.
it's like a huddle. And then
Yeah,
that's where we plan, okay, this is when I'm gonna run, this is when you're gonna go out, this is, our schedule. And sometimes that means like today, it's going to be hot and humid by the time I'm actually getting out there. But that's just how we roll, and
yeah,
I know that I'll get it in, and I know that I'm not gonna sacrifice, like, energy and stuff.
yeah.
Um,
Which
yeah.
is why well-fitting shorts in 90
Mhm.
degree heat and humidity and all that
Yep.
stuff in Pennsylvania hills is really important.
Yeah, the last thing I need is for my shorts to ride up my thighs. I cannot think of anything else that would frustrate me more during a run.
Yes, yes. No, I
Yeah.
and again, like, I think the first time I saw you, you said
Mhm.
those words, "Gobble up" my thighs are gobbling my shorts. I'm like, "Oh my god, that's totally it."
Yes. Yeah, they
That's
just
totally
slowly eat the
mhm.
shorts.
Yeah,
It's so annoying.
it's the worst, and I'll wear leggings in the winter when it's cold, but I don't
Right,
like
same.
wearing them in the summer,
I
so
don't either, and even the spandex shorts, like the bike
yes.
style, they're okay, that's what I wear running just because I know they'll stay down,
Right.
but I don't like to walk around in them, like, I need my skin to breathe.
Yes, breathing is important, especially in
Right.
those delicate parts.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I want flowy shorts. I don't think that's too much
Exactly.
to ask.
I feel you. So for you, like, physically, when you started back to running, like, what challenges did you run into? Because I think that's what stops moms a lot is,
Mhm.
like, either they can't find the right stuff that fits or the logistics or the body doesn't feel right the first couple times and they just throw in the towel. Like,
Yeah.
what was your experience and how did you kinda stick with it?
For me, I think I did not have the right shoes. I had, Brooks Ghosts that were so old that they had holes in the sides, like, I could stick my
Oh,
finger through the holes. So, if they were worn like that, you know that the soles and the cushioning was gone.
yep,
So but I didn't realize the importance of that for some reason, and I was running on those, and I'm like, "Oh, my shins hurt." Um, my, knees hurt, my hips hurt. It's like that impact.
yep,
And also I wasn't running. I didn't know um that level of impact, like how much that can hurt.
yep.
Also like finding a bra because I was
Yes.
breastfeeding. So it's like, everything hurts there. And to find something supportive kind of means that you're like you can't breathe. It's so tight.
Yep, or you have to double
um
bra. Yep.
yeah. So I think those were my main things, my main discomforts, and also just the mental aspect of kind of like, why am I doing this? I won't be able to run more than a mile. Like I just felt a mile felt so hard. I just couldn't imagine going further, but I wanted to because I felt like I wanted to work towards something and not quit. I'm the type of person that quits everything that I start in life. And at that point in my life, I was so frustrated at that. I didn't want to keep doing it. So I'm like, I started this, like I'm going to keep going. It doesn't take that much time out of my day because at that point I I was running a mile, maybe working toward 2. And I think that's one of the things that kept me going is like, okay, you're getting relief, stress and everything because of this little thing that you do in your day. So why give that up?
Yeah.
And I think that's just what kept me going and trying to figure out like, oh, well, maybe my knees and shins hurt because of my shoes. Let's try that out, and that's where Pacers came in eventually.
Yeah.
They're like, you cannot wear those shoes.
No. Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was peak pandemic at that point, and
Yeah,
they
you
did a
couldn't find
virtual
things.
fitting for me.
That's fantastic.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were talking earlier. Pacers is one of our local businesses here, based out of Arlington, the Farley family, and they're just phenomenal. Not even to go in person, but to
Mhm.
give you virtual fittings. Like that's crazy. I love that they were able to do that for you.
Yeah, and they
Um,
actually offered, like, a link for my whole audience to get free virtual shoe
oh,
fittings.
that's awesome.
Because people they're when you first start like, I was ter say it wasn't the pandemic, like, that didn't exist, I don't know if I would, in that state that I was in, be able to go into a shoe store, face the, teenage boy track
Yes.
star who is going to inevitably be the one to fit you for shoes. I don't know if I could have done it at that point.
You know what though? I will tell you, and I've run since high school off and on, and working with runners, it's so important to have a shoe that fits. And even my mom, she texted me the other day, and she still runs, and she's 75.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I know, but I mean, like it's running is probably a loose term for
Yeah,
that, but she's still moving, which I love. But
yeah.
she hates her shoes because this is the other thing too, is like, and you know this now, is like you get a brand, you get a style, you get it and it works, and then you go to get the next level up and they freaking change everything, which I
Yeah.
hate. And
Mhm,
she's like, "Okay, well this isn't working. What should I get?" And they live in the boonies as well. I'm like,
mhm.
"Mom, I don't know." Like I don't know.
Right?
And
It's
and it's
hard.
so hard to get. Like I had a pair, I don't remember what it was. I think it might have been Brooks something or other. I can't remember. And between 2 seasons, my size went from a 9.5 to a 10.5. I'm like, "My foot didn't grow."
Right,
And now
right.
I feel like I'm, like,
Oh,
got dolphin
no.
shoes or something.
Yeah, it's the shoe industry. Oh my gosh, we could have a whole 'nother podcast on that, but
Right?
it is so wild to me, like,
But to walk in a shoe store, period, I mean, like,
it's
and I'm used to
intimidating.
doing it. It's incredibly intimidating, and I
Mhm,
also, I feel like I kinda know a few things, and so I've
mhm,
got some punk trying to tell me, "Oh, you need this," or they're trying to upsell me, or
mhm.
my favorite was trying to get me to try Hoka's, which love them, but, like, I'm gonna trip over my face, like,
Yeah,
'cause I'm
I
gonna end up
cannot.
on the
Yeah.
ground.
Yeah. They're for a certain type of foot or person or I don't know,
The
but
the
I
the kind that
yeah.
has foot clearance that I don't, so
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's a lot, I think, for anybody to go in and be like, "Alright, here I am," and
Mhm.
you've gotta spout out, "Okay, these are my stats, this is what I need," and then you're always worried they're trying to, put you in this, like, Cadillac shoe, and you're like, "I just need to go a mile."
Right, right. Or you might feel like you're not entitled to try, like, maybe
Right.
a nicer shoe
The
because you
pretty
don't
ones.
so because you don't run further than a mile and
Right.
or they might you f a and all of this is so internalized. Can I share a story that I
Please.
heard that really made me rethink, um, I guess, my mindset of how other people perceive me in public?
Yeah.
Not like I care in the first place. I did used to. I really I wasn't always like this. But so there was a study done that they put scars on people's faces with makeup. And they looked very realistic.
Mhm.
And they showed the people, they said, this is what your scar looks like. You're going to go out in public, and every time that somebody looks at you, different or stares or anything different than how they normally would react to you, you just make a check mark and we're going to tally them up. Um, but before they went out, the makeup artist came over and acted as if she's like, "Oh, I just need to moisturize it so that it stays because we don't want it falling off and
Yeah.
looking fake." But when she did that, what she was doing is actually removing the scar. But these people thought the scar was still there.
Oh,
And as they went
wow.
out in public, they tallied up all these people that were staring at their scar, and it wasn't even there. And so that to me was so powerful when I heard that. I'm like, so when we're thinking, oh, I can't go into a running store, they're gonna look at me and be like, oh, they don't even look like
Yeah.
a runner. Probably not. They're just probably trying to make their like sales quota or like, you know,
Yep.
impress their boss and, you know, sell a shoe that day. They don't
Yep.
really judge you, and if they are, that's really their problem,
Yeah.
not yours.
No, that's such a good story, and I think that's also a lot of moms trying to either get back or to start, like you're talking about. You're thinking that people are looking at you
Mhm.
strangely, and you're like, "Oh, well, you're not fast, or you're not this, or you're not that." And there's that whole, and I kind of felt that myself after coming back
Yeah.
after 2 kids.
Mhm.
You had this idea, like, I love that, there's it's on some of the social, like, "This is what I am in my mind," and it's got
Yeah.
this, quick music, and then it takes the audio off, and you're, like, farting and running or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So, as a pelvic floor PT, I have to kind of, where I'm like, "Wait, why are you farting when you're running?" But you
Right.
get the point. So,
Yeah,
all right, so if we're
yeah.
gonna go there, all right, tell me about, so I had reached out to you before the, Always Discreet ad came out.
Mhm.
So tell me about that. Like, it was so funny. I had a bunch of PT, I call them PT police, because like, oh my God, did you see this? I'm like, I think it's great. So tell
Yeah.
me about where that came from.
Yeah, so for a while, I think kind of ever since I started posting my run videos online, I've always, instead of like trying to hide, like, oh, it looks like I peed, or maybe it's crotch sweat, I don't really know. Instead of trying to hide it, I'm like just showing it. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know, what is it? Because I sweat so much. Honestly, it could be sweat. It could be that much sweat. That's
Yeah.
the thing. But so I've always been very open about it. I'm aware of, pelvic floor PT. Um, the problem is in where like rural places where I live,
Yep.
you are going to be driving hours and they
Yes.
will not take your insurance.
Yeah.
So I understand where people were coming from. Like, this needs to be fixed. I understand. But say even I was in PT, it still takes time.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
in the meantime, here's
I
something that
need
I
something.
use,
Yes.
so I think people kind of took it as like, well, you should really be getting it fixed. I understand that, but other people need to also understand it's hard for some people to
Yeah.
access.
Yep.
I think that will shift eventually just because, I mean, from what I see on like TikTok and Instagram and connecting with people like you, there is more information out there. And I
Yeah.
think patients will start kind of going to their OB at least and being like, hey, we need more people because this is something that I need. I don't want
Yep.
to do a surgery,
Right.
um, you
Exactly.
know? And the other thing is, um, specialization. Like some people need help more with like running, and some people need more help just in general. Like
Right.
they can't get up and maybe they have all that pain. I have friends that have severe pain and are in pelvic floor PT.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's not all about, I guess, peeing your pants, but there's a whole ton of issues that go with it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I did that ad. Um, but I did not foresee the anger about PT that would come out.
It's it's so interesting, and I will apologize for my profession, having been in it for 23 years. It's funny how the pendulum shifts. I mean, a couple years ago, I had a trainer colleague reach out to me because there was the mantra sort of change a little bit,
Mhm,
and it was like, you need to get PT, you need to get PT, and she reached out to me, and she's like, I don't know if you see this, but what do people think when they can't?
mhm,
Whether because of logistics or finances or whatever, like, are those people now left to believe that they don't have a choice in getting better, or they won't ever get better? And
mhm,
that blew my mind. And
mhm.
being from a rural area, like, it was 30 miles to the closest grocery store.
Yeah,
There was no run club, like, you're
mhm,
on the rural county road sorts of things. Like, to go to the closest major medical system was 70 miles.
yeah,
And so when I kind of put those two things together, I'm like, wait a second.
Mhm.
And, living in Arlington, like I can't spit without running into a runner, to be quite honest with
Right,
you.
right.
It's so incredibly different. And
Mhm.
so it was, I was reading through the comments, and, there was a lot of, I was encouraged because there were a lot of moms that are like, hey, PT, it worked for me. And I'm like, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But it makes me cringe a little bit when the PTs are in there. They're like, well, you need to do this, you need to do this. And the fact that I had colleagues reaching out and saying, can you believe she's doing this? I'm like,
Mhm.
I think it's freaking fantastic. One, because we're talking about it and it's no big freaking deal.
Yeah.
And number two is, again, like you said, like where you are right now, or where people might be right now, that might be the best option. And we
Right.
can't, like, you're never like, if you tell me you're never going to get there because you didn't do what I said, I'm going to stop listening to you. And we
Mhm.
can't do that.
Right.
So I was super glad to see, and I apologize.
No, I honestly, it did put it a lot into perspective for me, and in full disclosure, that brand deal came about, and the reason I agreed to it is they wanted the conversation to
Yes.
start, and they
Yes.
wanted creators that are not scared or shy about it to
Yes.
make content around it, and they wanted it to be funny, and they wanted it to be relatable, and it wasn't so much about like, "Hey, buy this product." It was like, "Let's start talking about it and making
Absolutely.
people feel comfortable." That, that's why I do it. And I think, like, if you watch a lot of my videos, any ad that I do is not, to sell. Like, I'm not getting a cut of the
Yeah, no,
you
you
know what I
wish,
mean?
right?
It's because it's something that I find
Yeah.
is important to talk about, or it's something that I know will help my audience. So for me, in this case, it was that conversation.
Yes.
I feel like people are really embarrassed by things like this, not just specifically this, but like any issue dealing with like the female
Yes.
reproductive or any kind of function. It's like so taboo.
Yep.
So yeah, that I was like so excited about posting that. And like I got so many DMs of people like, wow, thank you, because I get made fun of for this, and people
Yes.
act like no one else has it. So and the statistic of like 1 in 3 women, I
It's a lot.
felt there was like a lot of eye-opening things, but I had to unfortunately stop reading the comments because of the people, yeah, that were
Sorry.
that were like,
Oh,
you know
we're working on it. I mean,
I
we
know.
tend to run in pendulums over here. And I think, the common but not normal was great to start, but then they're like, well, what does that mean? And I think here's the other thing too, especially with running, um, a lot of basic pelvic floor PT. Like I kind of talk about it in thirds. So like I think a
Mhm,
third of women are not going to have any problems when they run. So ironically, that's the 1 in 3 you're talking about.
mhm,
Then you've got women that I think there's a third of them that like with basic pelvic floor PT, they're going to do fine with their running, no big deal. And then there's a third of women that it's more complicated, kind of how you mentioned earlier, like how you run and like that impact and just starting to move again.
mhm,
And our basic pelvic floor PTs aren't. And so I was seeing some of the comments there, oh, I tried it and it didn't work. Like I think also having people that understand running
mhm.
and the pelvic floor stuff. And so
Yes.
for people like yourself where you're just starting, you're like, I've got shin splints, I've got knee pain, I've got all these other things that I can't like that might be more of a priority. And I think it's
Yeah.
important to recognize the barriers to running, and that might not be the first one.
Right, because I can deal with that, honestly.
Right,
I like
exactly. That's
I
what
it's
always is
not
there for, right?
yeah, like, it's not hurting me,
Right,
and it's not preventing me physically from running. Like, and you're dealing with so much, you don't even a lot of times recognize your body. So
right.
not only does it look completely different and things are moving where they didn't move before,
Yes.
you're also dealing with, yeah, like, is that pee or sweat? I have
Right.
no idea, and there's a lot of chafing going on.
A
So
lot. Yes. No, you
but
get a lot
yeah,
of body glide.
right. But yeah, I do think it's important, and I'm so glad that you immediately recognized that it isn't accessible for everyone.
Yeah.
And if people in that industry are angered by it, then they could maybe try and like make a change. Or I mean, you're all experts in it. I don't know how to make people want to come out here and help people, or
Yeah.
I don't know how to make insurance um take or be accepted at these
Yeah.
places. But yeah, I don't think it helps to like poo-poo people that are,
No.
you
I
know,
I think it
not
shuts people
doing
down,
it.
they're not gonna listen anymore.
Yeah.
They're actually I have a colleague that she's based, I think, out of Pittsburgh. This is actually in the last week.
Mhm.
Her and a couple other of my colleagues actually were in support, and there's actually a bill that was presented to the House of Representatives for fourth trimester care, which actually includes pelvic floor PT, Medicaid, Medicare,
Oh my
those sorts of
gosh.
yes.
Thank you.
So right? And
Man.
so, I mean, and because again, there's so many barriers. It's not just
Mhm.
social acceptability. It's can I access a provider that knows what they're talking about? Can I have
Mhm.
payment? What about my childcare? Because you don't want to be doing
Yeah.
pelvic floor PT with your, you know, 4, 2, and 1-year-old. You don't want to.
Yeah.
So there's so many different barriers to that I think
Mhm.
we just need to be cognizant of and supportive of moms because again, no one wants to I got enough mom guilt given myself. So
You know, yeah.
yeah. So for you, like, I'm sorry, two vaginal deliveries, a C-section, like first of all, did you expect kind of how everything turned out? Like when you were thinking about having kids and thinking about active postpartum, what did you think it was going to be and what's the reality been?
I think I thought that I was so prepared, especially for like vaginal deliveries. I fully knew like you could tear. Anything that could go wrong, because I'm the type of person like I need to look into everything that could go wrong, and then when it goes wrong, I'll understand it, and then I
Yeah,
don't get as worried.
right.
Um, Ironically, that makes you more worried because then you realize how much could go wrong. So that is my cycle.
I understand that. I
But
laminated my first birth plan just to give you an insight into my head. So, because I thought it was being helpful to the nursing staff that they would have these yeah, no, I feel
right,
you.
it's just out, yeah, out the window. Yeah, so but each one was so different. Like the first one was induced, um, because I think like low fluid or something like that.
Yeah,
It ended up being like 2 days. I didn't want the epidural, but they're like, "You're not gonna get any further." Got the
yeah.
epidural, only my legs went numb, and
Oh,
yeah, it
seriously.
was
Oh, that
horrible.
sucks.
So then, of course, the next one, I'm like, "No, I'm gonna be in a birth center. I'm not even gonna go to the
Right.
hospital. I don't want the epidural."
Yeah.
Everything was fine until, his shoulder got stuck. He had shoulder
Oh,
dystocia.
no.
So, yeah, I mean, they got him out, but rushed to the hospital, all
Ugh.
that stuff. Luckily, it's, like, right down the road,
Right, that's
so it
good.
wasn't like, um and then, yeah, the 3rd one, just they're like the second one was so big, he was like 10 pounds, 2 ounces,
Ooh, girl.
that you need to be like, we have to monitor the size, and
Yeah.
if she's bigger or remotely near that, you need to consider, like, your options, and they didn't push me to the C-section, but I was so traumatized by that shoulder dystocia.
Yes.
I mean, they're standing in a bathtub next to me with a stopwatch, and I remember them counting, like, how long he wasn't breathing. So it was so traumatic
Oh my
that I
gosh.
was like, "I would rather be cut
Yes.
open
Yep.
in a very controlled
Yes.
way
Yeah.
than to go through any of that again." Um,
Wow.
so yeah, that was like a very the vaginal deliveries, I thought I would understand. I didn't understand how permanent things would be. Like, "Oh, yeah, they'll just sew you up." Well, that's not really the
Not
same.
yeah, exactly. That's a nice way of putting it, just not really the same.
Right, and then, j the amount of pain after those as well,
Yeah.
and not understanding even where things were inside anymore. Like, I didn't really understand that, and then, um so everyone thought I was crazy when I said the healing from the C-section was better than the vaginal deliveries for
Yeah.
me. It just I think because my C-section it wasn't emergency, I wasn't in full labor. I
It
was, like, barely started labor,
it makes a difference, yeah.
and yeah, it was very, like, controlled. Whereas
Yes.
I think if I was, fully in labor, the baby was stuck, and then you guys, I mean, I can't even imagine healing from that
That was
because,
my first.
oh,
Oh,
so
it sucked.
you're
It was
having
awful.
the pain of both
Yes,
then.
no, it's the better part of 2 deliveries, to be quite honest with you.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I wouldn't recommend it really to anyone, quite honestly. So,
right. That's so
um,
hard. I can't imagine that. And that's why I always preface it with mine was planned,
right.
but it was easier to heal from that than the
Yeah.
vaginal deliveries.
Well, I can't imagine. I mean, my son, he wasn't doing great, but he was still breathing all of that stuff. I can't
Mhm.
imagine what that feels like, and I don't know
Right.
that anyone can tell you otherwise after that. Like, no, I want this control because I want my kid to be okay.
Right, right.
So, I think
Yeah,
that
that was it was like without a question. Because
oh yeah,
when you tell people, they're like, "Well, are you sure you don't wanna," not my medical people, but
no, but your
people in my
friends,
life
yeah, yeah,
can be very judgy, or strangers even on the internet, like, "Well,
yes,
why wouldn't you, at least try, like, do you know what a C-section," I'm like, "Do you know what not a C-section can do?" So, I mean, just stay in your lane, I'll be okay.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's there's nothing worse and there I give a little reprieve to expectant moms who haven't had kids yet because I was
Mhm.
definitely that person. You hear these stories like, "Oh, well, that will not happen to me, and I know these things, and that's just them." And okay, fine. We'll talk later.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
there's nothing worse than somebody who wants to judge your birth choices. You're like, "No, my friend, you do not get to
Right.
do that."
Right. It's
You do
that's a
not get to do
struggle.
that.
And,
Yeah.
as a mom, you're judged from the time you get pregnant.
Oh, I would dare say before.
Oh, well, that as well, yeah.
I do.
But
"Why aren't
that's
you pregnant yet?"
so true. That's so true. And also, like, while you're pregnant, "Oh, you shouldn't drink that coffee."
Yes.
Meanwhile, it could be decaf, but they just see you with a coffee cup. You're like,
Mhm.
there's just so many things like, "Oh, you shouldn't be running," or "You shouldn't be doing that kind of yoga." So
Yeah.
you're judged your whole pregnancy, and it makes you feel like second guess all of your instincts.
Yeah.
And then you have this plan that you would prefer. Everyone judges that. And then after the baby, you're judged until the end of time for
Yes. I think that's
everything you
about
do.
right. Yeah. No, I think
And
that's about right.
yeah, it all falls on us, and it's exhausting. So, I feel like the last thing like, moms need when they're feeling like pure crap is for someone to be like, why did you get a C-section?"
Right.
Like,
You're like, "'Cause that defines my entire life now, thank you very much."
the audacity of that judgment. It is
Yeah.
unnecessary.
Yeah. Well, I think even especially for moms too, where maybe that wasn't their preferred choice, is even
Right.
harder. And
Yeah.
that for me, like, having to unpack that to get to our
Oh, yeah.
second, that
Mhm.
was, "Wait, this is my day job. I'm supposed to be able to I was supposed to prevent all these things. I was not supposed to have leakage or prolapse or abdominal separation. Why do you have that, or why couldn't you ever have a
Oh,
vaginal delivery?"
yeah. That was probably hard.
It's not fun, but I mean, I think that's the other thing too is you gotta put that stuff down. You've gotta be able to process it, but somebody telling you and questioning you doesn't help either. And the whole like, well, vaginal delivery is the right way, and I think there's no freaking right way. The way that's right is the way that like I'm safe, my kid's safe, like
Mhm.
minimal,
But do you
collateral
feel
damage.
Yeah, do you feel like because you went through that, like, you did have some of those issues, that it made you understand
Oh,
more?
yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's funny, my kids are now 8 and 11, and so I have some room to breathe and some brain cells that function most of the time,
2
and
little serotonins working
yeah,
together with some
exactly.
brain cells.
At this point, I'll take what I can get, because then perimenopause is staring, you're like,
Oh,
"Ah,
yeah.
I don't wanna lose anymore." No, it's one of those things, again, like, I think it just humbled the hell out of me,
Mhm.
and, um I I don't know that I would be the advocate that I am now without having gone through that because
Yeah.
I it again, I treated for 12, 13 years without ever having a kid. And did I say some really stupid stuff like, you should hold your kid on the other side? I'm like,
Mhm.
no, this is my dominant side. Do
Yeah.
not tell me what to do. Like why mothers didn't slap me in the face, I don't know. But I mean, for me, I think it's ideally I'm bringing hopefully a little bit more compassion to the situation of like,
Mhm.
no, I get you. I get what you're
Yeah.
going through. You've got to make sure to not project your experience on
Mhm.
someone else.
Yeah.
Or especially I'll get moms that come in like 38 weeks, and we have a lot of older moms down here. And I can say that because I was one, but like 40-year-old mom that wants to have the perfect quiet vaginal delivery, no medication, and they're going to an institution that's not known for that. And I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
that
What's
ship might have
their
sailed. Yeah.
expectations?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a fine line to walk, but again, I don't know that I would have that desire to be so much of an advocate if I didn't know what that felt like.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to the judgment that you were kind of saying, like you feel like people are judging you, but also some really are.
Yeah,
Um,
some might be, but others might be like, "Wow, she went through that,
yeah,
so and she had those experiences, so if it does happen to me, despite me doing everything right, she's gonna know how to
yeah,
move forward."
yeah.
I would prefer that over someone that didn't have any of those issues, and if I did, they would be like, "Well, you didn't do it right." Like, that would tear me
Right.
apart,
Yeah.
so
No,
I feel like that's so valuable for you to have.
well, and for me too, like that's it, because as you all know, you have a conscious choice of whether to be open about certain parts of your life, especially when you're on social, and
Mhm,
making that decision that okay, it may not be the most comfortable thing in the world, but if you can help one person,
mhm.
that can make a difference. And again, if this is my day job and what I thought was supposed to be the right way wasn't working, and again, this is back when we weren't talking about getting moms back to running. We
Right,
weren't talking
yeah.
about doing these things. Like I actually started CrossFit when my youngest was 3. I don't know what the hell I was doing. I was like, go in there, shut my mouth, do what
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
told. Meanwhile, now I've got to navigate all this other pelvic floor crap with it too. But like, I don't know. It kind of, full circle back to, what people are connecting with you for a particular reason. And
Mhm.
it's because we want to feel active. We want to feel good about ourselves. But there's stupid shit that happens along the way, like your thighs gobbling your shorts,
Yeah, yeah.
like
Let's talk about it, you
okay,
know?
you gotta tell me where this came from because I don't
Oh,
think
the
I've
running outfit of the day pose?
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
That's so funny because, like, how I was talking about earlier, my TikTok, like, I gained all those followers over there, and I was like, "I don't even know what to do with you guys. I'm not really sure why you're here, but I enjoy making videos, like, it makes me laugh, you know?
yeah.
It entertains me, I don't have anyone to run with, so it's almost like when I am filming them, yeah, it's like I have everyone with me. I'm like, "Oh, haha, look at
Oh,
this." You know what I mean? So it's
yeah.
genuinely enjoyable. I'm like, "I think I'm gonna keep doing it." But people would start saying, "Why don't you post on Instagram? Like, do you have an Instagram?" Because that's where people can message you. So
Right.
it's nice to have, but I didn't understand what to post there because at the time it was only static photos. Yeah, so I
Oh, so this is pre-reels then.
Yes,
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
wow.
This
Okay.
was, like, a couple years ago, and
Yeah.
short form video content comes so naturally to me, I just genuinely enjoy it,
Yeah.
and I enjoy consuming it and everything, but a photo, I'm like, I've never known how to pose for a
So
photo.
that's where this came from.
Yeah, and I tried to do all
Ah.
these Instagram like, I would actually look like, okay, one leg goes in front, it looks like one of their hips is back, and then, like, maybe an ar and I would take a picture of myself like that, and I'm like, "This is horrible." So I'm like, "Screw this. You guys wanna see my outfit here," and I just stood the most awkward way, and, I just
It
thought it
took
was
off.
funny. Yeah, and
Oh my god. You did a
now
video
everyone's doing it.
recently that was, like, cues for running, and I freaking laughed out loud, it probably spit out my coffee because it literally was like the worst physical therapy advice ever, like, "Run with your tits up," and, like, "Run,"
Yeah,
like, it was like
squeeze your
it was like
glutes.
Yeah, use your glutes. I'm sorry, you're not supposed to think about your glutes when you're running.
Yeah, I think about that and then I forget how to run. Yeah.
No, you just look like you crapped your pants when you do
Yeah.
that, quite
Yeah.
honestly. So
Or you're holding it apart.
exactly, exactly. No, so those I think, full circle, the fact that you're so incredibly relatable. I just literally I saw you laughed, had no idea that you were like on the Today Show and kind of all this other stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, she's just really funny. So awesome. Anything else? Anything you want to promote? Anything you want to share? And I'll put your stuff up here if you want to find her. Because I'm not on TikTok because I can't. I've got too many things.
Yeah,
Like,
there's so many platforms, like, let's just limit it, right?
yes, exactly. I can only handle one thing right now. Anything that you want to share at all?
Yeah, I think the easiest thing is just, mrspacecadet.com because that you could see, like, my story, any press, and you can obviously find my socials there, so that's,
Awesome.
like, the place to go.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on today. And thank you for just literally brightening up every mom's day with the stuff that you post and, inadvertently becoming an advocate for all moms who want to run everywhere. So thanks so
Oh,
much,
thank
Erin, for being
you.
on.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for everything that you're doing.
Thanks.